They're so scared about taking action. They're so scared about potential challenges, and it's because of the self-confidence. And the one
Hmm.
thing that lots of people say is like, yeah, just have more self-confidence. Go out there and do it. It's one thing to say it, but it's
Right.
another thing to actually harness it. So for someone like yourself who's been doing this from a very, very young age, how do you harness that self-confidence to go out there and meet challenges, face adversity, and succeed?
So that's really the whole basis of mind shifting. And I'm going to actually take a step back even and say, you have your series of books, Make More, Work Less with Jessica. And those books have a ton of tremendous advice for people to be able to harness their abilities to achieve their desires. And I would probably wager that people can't do that from a feeling of fear and anxiety. So if they're in a mindset of fear and anxiety, then you could have the best advice in the world, and their fear and their anxiety are going to block them. And so the question becomes, how do we change those reactions into ones that are curious and playful? Because when you have the mindset that, gee, I wonder what's happening here, or that it's like a game, you can pretty much tap into all of your powers and all the powers of the people around you. So, having said that, the studies that I've done have indicated that, this is an oversimplification, but there's really two parts of our brain. There's the parts of the brain that evolved from the earliest multi-celled organisms that could move. And that evolved into what a lot of us call the survival brain or the limbic parts of the brain. And those are all dealing with survival. And so you think about, well, what's really necessary for survival? Well, in order to survive, we have to be able to recognize threats and take action and focus the entire organism on combating that threat. Those parts of the brain can't distinguish from something that's just a challenge versus something that's going to kill us. It's a threat or it's not a threat. It's a very binary very binary situation. And then in mammals, we started evolving parts of the brain that surrounded that limbic system, the cortex, and specifically in hominids, the prefrontal cortex, which evolved in the great apes and mostly evolved in people. And that prefrontal cortex is what controls our ability to be resourceful, to be resilient, to be creative, to be critical thinkers, to collaborate and connect with others. So we have that ability, but the survival brains, actually parts of the brain, activate in like 2 to 3 100ths of a second. So it's like, is this a threat? And once they activate, they then secrete fear hormones that then focus the entire organism on that threat and inhibit the ability of the prefrontal cortex to work. So if you want to uh, improve, if you want to learn new things, you have to be able to engage that prefrontal cortex, which wakes up in 2 to 3 seconds instead of 2 to 3 100ths of a second. And in order to do that, you first have to quiet, and you have to learn the techniques to quiet your survival brain, and then tap into your ability to empathize, to critically think, to explore alternatives, to collaborate with others, and to embark on things where you're willing to overcome obstacles.